It's time now for Call of the Wild, the official weekly coaches show of the Wenatchee Wild. Stay up to date with your team all season long with Call of the Wild. With head coach and GM Bliss Littler, here's the voice of your Wenatchee Wild, Arch Ecker.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Call of the Wild, the Wenatchee Wild weekly coaches show. It's a playoff edition. I'm Arch Ecker alongside Wenatchee Wild head coach and GM Bliss Littler. The Wenatchee Wild have advanced through the Mainland Division semifinals and will move on to face the Chilliwack Chiefs in the division finals. We'll take a look back at the series against Prince George and take a look ahead at what's coming up in a rematch of last year's division finals against the Chiefs. So let's start off with the Prince George series. And last week we didn't get a chance to talk because we were on the road. So we can kind of briefly touch on how the series began. But the Wild, kind of like a house of fire, coming out and winning a couple of big games here at home fairly convincingly.
Well, I thought our depth really showed that all four lines played well, and actually we did a good job. I thought with our fourth line, I thought that the play we got out of Morton, Sauter, and Weatherby was amazing. They gave us so much energy, allowed us to roll four lines, that we got caught many times where they were out on the ice against Prince George's top line. But their strength down low, we kept a lot of pucks in, spent a lot of time in our in-zone offense, which I think the big difference there was depth.
You know, a lot of times coaches like to match their fourth line up against another team's first line.
A lot of times you're right with a checking line, but I really wouldn't call those guys a checking line. That they're going to be very good players, and you're going to see them way up the offensive charts a year from now. But again, they definitely in practice we make sure that line, whenever we're competing, we try line them up against Harris, Combs, and Williams, so they're playing against the highest end players that we have, so that when they are stuck against the other team's top line, they've seen that before. But again, I mean, who are we kidding? That there's not a big difference between Harris's line and Conzo's line and Baker's line. But again, I guess psychologically, when you put them with Harris, Combs, and Willie, they see all the points, and I think it gives that group a lot of confidence when they can have some success.
To the fans that were here and even the ones that were watching on hockey TV, it was pretty evident that as games 1 and 2 wore on and the lead got a little higher for the Wild, things started to degrade a little bit on the ice. It seemed that when we got up to Prince George, that shifted a little bit in Game 3. We had a little closer match as a result. Yeah,
I think so. That I think the opening round, the set of games, I think throughout the league, it just appeared with the amount of suspensions that came out from the other series, where there suspensions for high hits, head contact. There's an email sent out from the league office basically telling coaches, hey, simmer down, that let's play hockey. And I think once players saw that, hey, they're going to suspend guys for vicious hits, head contact, that the players settled down, and definitely in our series that was the case.
It didn't seem like that memo made it to our series, but nonetheless, but still a hard-fought victory in Game 3, and now you got a 3-0 series lead. But we've talked about it in the pregame show while we were on the road. Sometimes the hardest one to nail down is an elimination game, and you had Prince George with their back against the wall in their home barn, and they came out ready to go in Game 4.
Yeah, again, I think give PG. I think they had a great game plan against us. Like I say, the difference down here was the depth, that we rolled four lines. That was the difference. And up there, again, we were already nursing some injuries, and with not having the ability to bring in American players as affiliates until sometime in April at the earliest, our roster got depleted, and then we have the concussion, and all of a sudden we're down to three lines. And you don't have the same amount of jump playing three lines. They did a great job finishing all their hits. When you're finishing hits and when you're receiving hits, both guys are getting tired. I mean, you're getting tired of getting hit, and when the energy that it takes to physically hit somebody, it wears on you. And we're doing the same thing to their D, that we thought that the quicker we could wear their D down, the easier it'd be for us to spend time in the offensive zone. So you have both teams trying to finish all their checks, and no doubt that affected us probably more than it affected them, because we've been a 4-line team all year, and anytime we'd had to go down to 3 lines, we hadn't played as well. And so I definitely think that was the biggest factor, is all of a sudden we were down to playing 3 lines instead of 4. And hopefully we get a body or 2 back so we can go back to playing 4 lines in this series.
The series ended up coming back to Wenatchee for a Game 6, and it was one of those games where you had some chances early, had a goal disallowed, probably should have been a goal. It ended up being knocked off, and it went from being tied at 2 to suddenly being down 3-1. But you know what? A credit to your guys that just continued to keep their nose to the grindstone, and they never looked back.
Yeah, there's definitely no quit. That's for sure. And I'm proud of the group to face some adversity there. We easily could have been up early, and we weren't. And they get a break and goes their way, and finally we score a goal, and the ref says, "Hey, sorry, I blew it." And that happens. That when he came over to the box and he said, "Hey," he goes, "it should have counted. I blew the whistle early, but the rule is, when my whistle blows, the play's dead." And there's not much you can say. You don't have to like that he did it,
right?
But that he owned up to his mistake, and okay, we got to move on. And from there, again, we had a lot of good chances. We just weren't finishing. In the box, our guys, I give them a lot of credit. That one, Chris Clark was outstanding. He stayed so positive, and he kept the players up. That we can do this, guys. We can do this. We're close. We're there. It's going to happen. It's about to happen. And next shift, he said all the right things, and I think our kids just kept believing that, hey, let's get one, put a little more pressure on them, and we can get the next one. And it's always exciting when you can finish one the way we did. And I've seen that so many times in sports, that all of a sudden you get one, all of a sudden you're back in it, you get the next one, and all of a sudden the momentum's going totally one direction, and there's still a minute left. And on the visiting bench, he's over there thinking, boy, let's get to the locker room, regroup, and we've played pretty well, and let's see if we can win this in overtime. And your kids are thinking the same thing, and our kids are thinking, let's win the hockey game now. And got a puck to the net, and generally it's when you get to the end of a hockey game on the line, that any puck that gets to the net it's a puck that has a chance to go in. And if that doesn't go in, there's also a chance for the rebound, and that's exactly what happened.
Let's talk about the situation where you pull the goalie, you had a minute 20 left, offensive zone draw coming, and you pick your 6 guys to go out there, and you lean on the veteran presence, and Chris Jones ends up there on the blue line. And I talked with Chris Clark a little bit in the post-game show about that, but let's hear your side of it.
I don't have a side of that one. That I picked the 4 forwards that are going on the ice, and I asked Coach Rudrud, said, "Hey, you went with Chris Jones there," and he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I had a good feeling about Chris, that he's one of our guys that does the best job of getting pucks through traffic, and Chris believes he's a goal scorer, and we needed somebody that believed in themselves." So it's a good call by Coach Rudrud.
Yeah, it certainly worked out well. And then, as you said, you get down to the final minute, and then even with time winding down, the guys grinding it out, and puck tied up against the wall, and A.J. Vanderbeck, who's known for some pretty whippy shots from tough angles, but this fighting hard for that puck in the neutral zone, carries it in, jukes the pants off a guy, cuts to his right, and throws the off-pad shot to allow Baker the chance to finish. It was a thing of beauty, really.
Well, I think he'd probably tell you that he was shooting to score. But again, if you put enough pucks to the net, again, he looked like a genius there, that's for sure.
One of the things you had talked about in your pregame keys to the game was to talk about winning special teams battle, and you clearly were able to do that. Matt Baker ends up tying a franchise record already with 4 power play goals in the postseason. So he's been off to the races. And you predicted in the very beginning of the year that Matt Baker was going to be one of the surprise standouts this year. Maybe not a surprise, but he was going to really develop into a tremendous player. And he may be peaking at the ideal time for you.
Well, he might be a surprise to people around the league or a surprise to some fans, but to his teammates and to the coaching staff, it's not a surprise. We saw this coming last year that he's developed into one of our very best all-around hockey players, and in my opinion, he's easily a top 5 player in the entire league.
And not to be overlooked on the back end, the play of Anthony Yamnitsky. He came up with some amazing stops. Of course, he held the Spruce Kings, along with the defense in front of him, to a single goal in each of the first 3 games. Some of the goals, the even strength goals that he ended up allowing, kind of got orphaned a couple times, and those, nobody stops those. But I think his play in Game 6 was a key part of the reason why we were able to move on.
Anybody that doesn't think Yammer is a high-end goaltender is crazy, absolutely crazy. That he can flat out play. That he came in, and again, we don't use the rookie word. We don't use that around here. But he came in as a first-year guy. In his mind, he thought, you know what, I'm going to battle. I'm going to try steal this guy's spot. But he was content to come in here and have a spot. And he got off to a start that was pretty good. And then we struggled a little bit. And I like to say he struggled, and then he's emerged. He's emerged into a top-flight goaltender that will have a scholarship, I believe, very shortly. I know he's been offered a couple places now, and we couldn't be more excited that he's our goalie.
So the Prince George series now, thankfully, behind, and we move on to the next round. And we got the Chilliwack Chiefs coming up, and that's going to start off this Friday. We'll talk about that when we return as Call of the Wild continues here in a few moments on your Wenatchee Wild Playoff Hockey Network. And welcome back to this week's edition of Call of the Wild. It's a playoff edition as the Wenatchee Wild advance to face the Chilliwack Chiefs in the Mainland Division Finals, a rematch of last year's Division Finals in which Chilliwack emerged with a 4-1 series win. Some guys returning from last year for both clubs, so maybe a little bit of the core back, but by and large, both teams have changed and grown.
Oh, for sure. For sure, they're two different teams, and again, we're a team we feel we've grown a lot, and I think this is a series that both teams have anticipated, hoped that would happen at some point, and I'm expecting a great series.
Which team do you think has more to prove? The Wild to try to prove that they aren't a regular season only team, or the Chilliwack Chiefs who feel that maybe they were underrated?
Well, they did have the second best record in the league. I don't know if anybody underrated them, but they may have not had the accolades that our kids ended up with. Again, as a coach, you can play it on both sides. One, you can play a little bit on the confidence side that this is where you finished up. On the other side, hey guys, you know what? We've known all year that we keep improving. This is where we're at, and I'm sure that that up in Chilliwack that they're itching to get going here. That a chance to win the division again for second year from us, and I'm guessing that they're playing that underdog role, and again we know we've had a ton of respect for them all year. I think they play a very similar game to what we play, so it'll be real interesting to see the style that they come with. Last year, I think they're able to physically intimidate us, or physically the first couple games of the series, and then I thought we grew up. We grew some whiskers, and they may have wore us out by the end physically. I don't know if that's will be their plan this year or not. I kind of doubt it. I think that they feel that they can get up and down the ice, and we'll go back and forth and see how that goes. But, I think going back to that last series, I think it's going to be very beneficial that we had to learn to win and play a different style when we went down to 3 lines. I think that's going to be very beneficial to us, especially if we get a couple players back where we can go back to playing 4 lines. But if not, we've had to do it. We've had to play short, and we've proven ourselves that we can do that. And we had to play against a style that definitely wasn't real conducive to how we like to play. Again, it got slowed down to a snail's pace at times, and pucks were being chipped off the glass left and right. And I thought we adjusted to that pretty well. And so I think that all that can do is help us. Now I have no idea what they'll play, but we've gone back and we watched the 3 games that we played them, our last 3 right after the holidays, and watched this playoff series. So we have a pretty good idea how they've been playing. Will that change? Jason's one of the best coaches in the league, so I'm sure they'll have some wrinkles for us. But we know the key is you can't let Kawaguchi get going crazy. That he's got the ability to put a bunch of points up and put them up in a hurry. So we need to be aware of him on the ice and make them earn everything they get.
Well, certainly, they're a team that is blessed with a little bit of depth as well, because as much as we can kind of be aware of Kawaguchi, they'll try to be aware of Harris. But, the line keeps piling up after Harris, and same for them. They got Smith and Olszewski and all those guys that are very dangerous. So, and I think it makes it fun because I think, for the players, some matchups on the ice, they're fun to play. Those games they really look forward to because they're just fun. They're exciting. And other teams you play, and you're like, oh, good Lord, it's going to be like pulling teeth, and just getting through it. But the Chilliwack series, it shapes up to be very entertaining because I think the players embrace it on both sides, and probably a welcome matchup after the first round matchups for both clubs.
Well, I would think so. Again, we play similar styles. So again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure it'll probably come down to special teams, goaltending, and hopefully getting a lucky break here and staying healthy.
Yeah, once it gets to the playoffs, there's not really any secrets anymore. It's pretty much, by this point of the year, you are who you are, and you just have to do it better than they do.
Yeah, you're right. Now, I will say that PG, they changed their game completely. For the most part, the last 2 years, they played our D-zone coverage, or very similar to that. They tried to get up and down the ice, and they changed it. They flat out said we're probably not going to win a series playing that type of hockey against Wenatchee, and they said our best chance is to slow this thing down and I guess muck it up, make it ugly, chuck everything off the glass, dump pucks in, and they did an amazing job. That again, that's one of the better coaching jobs that I've seen recently, and but again, I think that's going to help us, that we had to learn to play that way, and now we go back and you always want to be prepared for everything and anything, but I would think that Chilliwack is probably going to get up and down the ice and try matches head to head that way, and but if not, if it's going to be slowed down, we just got done playing in a series like that, so we'll be prepared.
It seemed to me surprising that I thought at times in the Prince George series that they displayed more speed than I had seen from them throughout the year. And maybe that's just in comparison because they had tried to slow the game down so much that when they did use bursts of speed, maybe the contrast made it look more so.
I think you're right, because we've always felt as a coaching staff that they had good foot speed. Jay, people ask all the time, I say, I like their style, and jokingly, because I think they play very similar to us. But no, I've never felt that they didn't have foot speed. But when you just chip pucks off the glass and chip off the glass and flip it over the guy's head, so that you don't have to sustain somebody's forecheck, then you're playing a counter game the whole time. You're chipping pucks out, you're giving it away and saying, hey, we'll go back, and hopefully they make a mistake and turn the puck over. So you're playing a counter game. Instead of, we have the puck, let's keep the puck. it's hard to get it back, and that's how we play. Is we want to keep the puck once we have it. Is there a time and place to dump the puck? Absolutely, but for the most part, we like to be a little selfish. When we can get the puck, we don't want to give it away.
Things are set for a great playoff series, and the fact that you played 58 games this year and earned the right to have home ice advantage, that's a difference from last year too as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. That Chilliwack earned that right last year, and over 58 games, we've earned it this year, and the important thing is to hold serve in your building, and they have had success in this building. They're the only team that has. But again, we've been awful good in this building, and I'm glad we have home ice.
It all kicks off Friday. St. Patrick's Day is Game 1 of the Mainland Division Finals. You'll have an opportunity, someone in the building will have an opportunity to win $10,000 with a pot of gold lucky shot contest. Got to be in the building to qualify, though, so that's going to be fun. That's Friday night, Saturday night, Game 2. Tickets are on sale right now at our office. You can call us at 888-7825. That's 888-PUCK. Or you can also pick up your tickets down at the Town Toyota Center box office. Series will shift back up to Chilliwack for Games 3, 4, 5 if necessary on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then head back here for 6 and 7 if necessary. So plenty of playoff hockey coming your way. Be a part of it. Wear your blue to the rink and come ready to go. Make some noise and support your Wild. Bliss Littler, and I'm Arch Ecker with Call of the Wild Playoff Edition. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
You've been listening to Call of the Wild, the official weekly coaches show of the Wenatchee Wild, a presentation of the Wenatchee Wild Hockey Network.